Now,
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07 this Tuesday morning in your nation's capital. It's Thanksgiving week, and we appreciate you letting us ride shotgun with you here as you get your turkey. Are you starting to brine your bird, if you know what I mean? Let us know. Reach out on social media, whether it's on X or Facebook or wherever, and just let us know if you've begun to brine your bird. Coming up later this morning at 7:05, KT McFarland will join us, give us a lay of the land on the advent of World War III. 7:35, Ken Neunenkamp, our friend and owner of the wine outlet, talk about patronizing veteran-owned businesses this November. Then at 8:05, Julie Kelly on the Jack Smith case disintegrating before our eyes. And then at 8:35, Joe Concha about the media and their disintegration before our eyes, at least the legacy media, the old media, the no one cares about them anymore media. Not this media, not us. We're so excited this morning to be joined by a friend of this program, really a friend of this country, a trailblazer in his own right, the one, the only, Sean Spicer. Good morning, Mr. Spicer.
Good morning. I just want to be clear. This is a mentor program. I'm just here to help you, help the team grow.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
And I'm going to let you do the show. I'm going to take some notes. I'm going to send them to the team for feedback.
Excellent.
So I appreciate this, and I was excited to come into the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Center for the first time.
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that Julie Witten hasn't decorated. She knows my rule.
Jamie waits until after Thanksgiving, always.
I know. That's how it rules. I wish everybody got the memo, and I'm not pointing at you, Heather Hunter. But I'm just saying that, like, the idea that there's a
Heather
reason.
does have the Christmas tree up very early.
She does. I'm just saying.
Well, it's up in July, too. That's but that's Derek's demand. Derek is one of those kind of guys.
Is it his demand, or does he just not want to take it down?
So Sean Spicer's mentorship program, another man's work release program. Either way, we're happy to have him here, and it's an exciting moment for all of us. But first of all, I'd like to ask your sort of what this is like for you to watch the Trump transition happening, but you're not part of it. Because you got to have like PTSD from 8 years ago when you were so in the thick of this, coming off the election. I guess you still had a job at the RNC, right? As the transition was taking place.
I feel like Tom Brady watching the Patriots, although it's a little different. It's fascinating.
Don't you mean like one of the lesser, like, bench wide receivers watching the Patriots? I'm sorry, were you the Tom Brady of the Trump campaign? I had no idea.
Maybe the Gronk.
Okay.
Julian Edelman. Look, it's fun for me actually right now because watching it happen, being a spectator is so much more enjoyable because you can soak it in. You can watch the plays, if you will, being made and called. And I have the fun aspect of it now is that, and I know this is I said it as a joke, but it is kind of weird in a way because, like Brady, I'm now getting to watch the games and call them.
Yeah.
I sit there with a show every night. I get to talk about it like you do every day. And for me, it's fun because I've got the insight kind of the Game of Thrones aspect of this that's happening, everybody fighting for a job. The big difference, Larry, is, it was actually simpler in 2016, if you will, because there wasn't a lot of people in the orbit to begin with. So this time, I think everybody, thought that Trump was going to win. They've got these plans. They've had all these people making plans and policies and personnel ideas ready for the next presidency. So
I would think that would make it easier.
Well, no, because last time, I tell people all the time who ask about how I became press secretary. I said it wasn't exactly the most grueling interview process in the world because there weren't that many people that had been hanging around. I was with Trump since May of that year, and so there were only a handful of us that had been around him for a while. Who he had gotten to know. This time, think about all of the people that have been in the orbit that he had to choose from on various positions. So, and plus, the Mar-a-Lago scene is a heck of a lot different in terms of last time it was Trump Tower and Bedminster.
Right. Yeah.
And Bedminster, and you can't just walk up there. And there were, not as many people hang out in New Jersey in the winter as they do in Palm Beach. Go figure.
Yeah.
So you had a lot more interaction. It's fun watching it. I'll tell you what, though, I am a bit jealous that we had to go through this in New York/New Jersey, and these guys get to go through with this in Palm Beach. I'm going, it's a little bit of a better weather scene. I mean, I went down there the other day, and I'm like, this is amazing. It's like 80 degrees all during the day.
Yeah, you got a golf course, you got a swimming pool, you've got I guess you got good restaurants in New York, too, but you got a bunch of New Yorkers. Actually, you have a lot of New Yorkers in West Palm Beach, too. All right.
Yeah,
so really, it's the weather. That's really the biggest difference.
It is the weather. I mean, let's be honest.
But, Sean, so to take your Tom Brady watching the Patriots analogy a little further, I mean, one of the I imagine Tom Brady watches a game with that proximity, being able to look in the booth at the entire playing field. And the second the quarterback makes a mistake and the ball's in the air, he's like, no, don't throw that. And so, I mean, is there a little bit of that, too, as you watch this process?
Yeah. I mean, look, yesterday I was saying this, and I know we'll get into this a little bit more. But as they get almost, and it's a little pet peeve of mine, the media was saying, well, the cabinet's all picked. There's the U.S. trade rep and the administrator of small business left. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is more picks have been made early on. And I'm like, okay, how are you guys going to take up the oxygen between now and January 20th? And I remember we had been a little bit deliberative with how we were going to roll stuff out. Obviously, the president even then was making, by tweet announcing things. But we had enough stuff to take up the bandwidth for a while. And so I do wonder how this is going to go. Like I go, okay, what are you going to talk about tomorrow and the next day to keep the media fed? And that's something that we didn't have to deal with as much back then because we still had a bunch of decisions. I mean, the president didn't know any of these folks, and we were introducing them to, frankly, not just to the people, but to government, saying, okay, now you need a deputy secretary of state and an undersecretary for political affairs, and, and an ambassador to this and that. And so this time he knows the game, and he's like, I want this person for this spot, and that's a very different process. You're not parading people out to the front of the door at Bedminster and taking photos.
Yeah, and, like yesterday, they made a big announcement about James Braid as the director of the Office of Legislative Affairs, and I saw a lot of people reacting to that, and it's a big deal. And I thought to myself, I couldn't tell you who Biden's director of Office of Legislative Affairs are. And most people don't wait for that announcement, but maybe that's another residual effect of this, since other than the two you mentioned, cabinet-level positions have been filled. Now these other players who really do have a big role in how things get done, they're going to get some attention and maybe even some scrutiny.
Yeah, I mean, look, season 2 has got a whole new set of characters, and it's like following White Lotus. You've got to...
the new setting, and hopefully a different wardrobe than White Lotus. But I take your point. All right, hold that thought. We've got more to talk about this difference, and also, by the way, the media. You're a member of the media now, for all intents and purposes. I mean,
well, that's rather insulting this early, but
as of you're on WMAL, so that's actually meant as a compliment. So I want your perspective on how the media is handling the sequel, or the second season, as you put it, and also some of the nuts and bolts of this incoming administration and your thoughts on it. Your candid thoughts too. I want you to tick somebody off this morning, if you don't mind. But first, you know what we've got to do. It's 5:15.
Oh yeah.
Your favorite part of the show, I know. You mentioned it all the time.
This is I know, just to see the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Center up close was Jamie gave me the VIP tour, and I appreciate that.
Jamie Whitten, she is in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center, and I don't know how I feel about you giving Sean a private tour of the center.
I know,
Jamie, but
and now everyone's going to want one.
He's
Thanks,
special.
Sean.
It's okay.
Well, I do respect that you have not decorated it before Thanksgiving has passed. That speaks volumes to who you are as a person.
Absolutely. It's coming, though. Just you wait.
Oh, yeah. Joe Hadid shows up with the ladder. He gets up there, and he hangs all the lights himself. And there's lots of rugs all over the place, too.
We are having a party.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
We continue with Sean Spicer, huge fan of not just Christopher Cross, but the entire yacht rock era, and I want to say, or yacht rock genre. He introduced this music to me, and I do love the music. I really do. I think it fits with our Annapolis vibe, too. There's something about being near the water in Annapolis. You sit by the fire ring, drink some wine, and turn this music on, and you're just transported. I appreciate it.
You
have brought this to my life.
You're welcome. It's my gift to you, and it's something that one you can start with on Thanksgiving, just being thankful for, and then as we head into the Christmas season, you can give thanks, and really celebrate.
Yeah.
But you can't hear that song "Sailing" and just not get sent to a place that's so tranquil and happy. It's just it's a dimension of your life that I think many people have missing and will find just by playing a little Christopher Cross and Michael McDonald in their lives.
Well, and as everyone knows, Sean, and he understands what we do here every day on O'Connor Company, we are going to talk about politics and policy and the players and all the things going on. But we will have our opportunities to talk Yacht Rock as well, because there's a Yacht Rock movie coming out, and I need to know, how into it you are or not.
I'm excited. I'll just let you know that right now. I am very excited because they did it right, at least from the trailer.
Yes, the trailer looks phenomenal.
The trailer, they hit the right notes. No pun intended.
So to speak.
But they got the right people.
So here's the question that everybody's asking, and I know you'll have the answer to it. The smart set in D.C., the conventional wisdom, which I have learned. You've been here longer than I have. I'm in my 13th year now, and one thing that I've learned is conventional wisdom and the smart set in D.C., generally speaking, 95% always wrong. And conventional wisdom is that Trump deliberately played 3D chess and set up Matt Gaetz as a sacrificial lamb. The media put all their attention on him. He's gone. Da. Is there any? Do you put any value? It seems to me Trump is pretty basic, right? Trump does what Trump wants to do. There's no.
So there's 2 points that you're bringing up here. One, the conventional wisdom, and the thing that's interesting to me is that. For those folks that get up and put on CNN or wake up with the Washington Post or even the New York Times, maybe it's the digital edition, at some point do you not say to yourself, wow, they've gotten this epically wrong every time, no matter what it is. You pick what you want. There's nothing that they get right, and yet people go back to them and are shocked by an outrageous claim they make or thing.
You're so right, but wait, real fast. They got it all wrong, and then in their analysis of why they got it wrong, they get that wrong too. Look, just so people understand kind of the latest iteration of this. Politico does a, quote, deep dive on the Harris campaign and goes through every iteration of what could have gone wrong yesterday. And the only thing, and Dan Balls did one for the Washington Post over the weekend, so both of these outlets are doing it. And in neither one of them do they blame the candidate. To the contrary, Sean, both of them said they said, let's set Kamala Harris as a candidate aside because she was perfection. She was flawless. They went out of their way to say she was great.
Karen Finney, one of her advisors, was on CNN yesterday morning as I was flipping. And by the way, just so people understand, I do have an addiction. I have to watch morning shows and Sunday shows because I'm on step 7 here.
Well, keep our audio on. You listen to us while you just read the captions.
That's right. No, I got everything. Yes, that's right. I'm multi, all sorts.
I know because anytime I mention you, I get a text.
I know. I got eyes everywhere. But the bottom line is they go and they go, her future is bright because she's such a compelling candidate. I'm like, do you guys understand? That is like the biggest elephant in the room. She couldn't tell you. I mean, she just said ridiculous things. She's not authentic. She didn't address major issues in the campaign in a way that satisfied the American people. And we're talking basic issues. And not just that.
Right.
When she got asked about Biden, I mean, there were things that were just so basic. So anyway, I think that this gets back to this idea of you've got a media that won't tell you what's really happening. They live in an echo chamber. And because of that, I'll give you one more example. I was watching Meet the Press this weekend, as I do all the shows, and the panel, they had 4 people on who don't like Donald Trump talking about Donald Trump's decision-making. Now, all I would tell you is, do you really think those are the 4 people that you should be thinking about are going to give you insight into who he is or what his thinking is?
Well,
if they don't know him and they don't like him. And so this goes to your Gaetz question.
If your goal is to inform your audience so that they can have a better understanding of who Donald Trump is and the White House and the process, you would want other people at that table. But if your goal is to just put out a diatribe and sort of feed that beast of people who hate Donald Trump, like everyone at that table and everyone who works at the network, then mission accomplished. I guess they met their goal.
But to your bigger, broader question on Matt Gaetz, the bottom line is you nailed this. And again, this is what makes what you and I do different than most of these other guys, is that it's actually not even that brilliant. It's obvious. Donald Trump is a very transparent guy. He says what he wants. He does what he wants. He wanted Matt Gaetz. And this idea that, somebody asked me yesterday, do you really think that it is this secret Machiavellian plot that what he really wanted was Gates to resign so that he'd be less of a thorn in Speaker Mike Johnson's side.
Oh, come on.
And I said, wait a second. So let me get this straight. So Johnson, who isn't really that close to Trump, is obviously getting to know him because he just ascended to the office not too long ago.
Yeah.
That Trump wants to take one of the greatest defenders that he has out of the House of Representatives and sideline him, willing to sacrifice some of the political capital from his big win because he wants to help Mike Johnson out. Now, just stop for a second and think on its face, does that make any sense? And they'd be like, well, I guess. But I read it, and I'm like, okay, full stop.
Yeah.
No. He wanted Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz was a fighter. I mean, he recognized at a certain point that the guy wasn't going to get the votes, and he cut him off. But anyone who thinks that this was anything more than him wanting him, you're reading the wrong stuff.
Yes, and watching the wrong stuff as well. And by the way, I'll just throw a little bit more insight in there. From my observation and from people I know on Capitol Hill, Matt Gaetz is the least of Mike Johnson's problems, honestly. Once McCarthy was gone, I mean, yes, he's a loose cannon, and you never know what might happen, but as soon as McCarthy was gone, Matt Gaetz hasn't really been much of a disruptor. His thing was with McCarthy. Johnson's, if you want to get rid of somebody to help Mike Johnson, you get rid of Tom Massey, right? You maybe give MTG the job as SBA administrator.
Right. But it's just not. It doesn't make any sense.
No.
And it just, again, it reveals how bad they are at what they do, and how ignorant they are to how like I said, the easiest part about this is that the Trump administration and Donald Trump, more importantly, are very transparent, right? He tweets or truths what he believes. He makes the comments, and then the idea that you're trying to think much deeper than that is where the mistake is. Like I said, he'll say what he believes. He fires it off. He wanted Gates in this particular situation. He wants all these folks. Now, so anything more than that is somebody else who doesn't know him.
That's right. Well, that's why we're glad to have Sean Spicer, who does know him, knows how the White House works, knows how this town works, and the media. I mean, he's a five-tool player is what he is, and he's with us all morning long. Coming up, we're going to talk about some of the policies that were floated out by the president yesterday, and whether those policies are going to be effective, and why are they floating them out this far out from Inauguration Day? We'll get into all that in just a moment. First, though.
Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:37 now. O'Connor and Company, thanks for tuning in here on a very exciting Tuesday morning as we're joined by Sean Spicer all morning long. Also at 7:05, KT McFarland. 7:35, Ken Noonenkamp of Wine Outlets. Say 8:05, Julie Kelly on the Jack Smith case disintegrating. And then at 8:35, Joe Concha on the media. Sean, a happy Thanksgiving week to you, by the way.
Yeah, I love this. This is the kickoff to me of the holiday season. And I love Thanksgiving. It's you don't have to buy gifts. Well, I mean, I do. I get them anyway.
Do you? People give you gifts for Thanksgiving? That's weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, if you think about things that you're thankful in your life, where am I, number one or two?
That's fair.
That's fine. But so I'm excited. I love that it kicks off the holiday season.
I think the point is to thank God for the great gifts we've been given, not thank you, Sean. I think you're misguided.
I'm not really sure. I'm going to have to Google that.
Well, a lot of people are going to be thankful for the way this election went, the majority of Americans, in fact. And one thing that's been striking, I think, we sort of talked about this transition process and how it differed from the one 8 years ago that you were in the thick of. And that is how rapidly it took place. I'm looking at this incredible screenshot from Fox News that they have all of these people in place ready to go. And you say it's because Trump gets it now. He knows how the government functions. There's less of a learning curve, and he knows exactly what he wants to do. So is now really from this point forward, it's about policy. It's like being ready on day one to sort of execute all those things he wants to do?
Yeah, the thing that's interesting to me that I think is sort of the untold story of what's happening right now is that the last 4 years haven't been just out in the wilderness waiting to reclaim the White House. The folks at whether it was Heritage Foundation or America First Policy have been writing plans and policies. I've been talking. We're looking at a lot of the folks.
Don't say Project 2025. Everyone's going to go nuts. Everyone's going to go insane. Like it's some. How dare you? Plan for an
that's a whole.
administration?
I would. When you're ready to go down that rabbit hole, I'll go down with you because I think that. Anyway, I do think that the bottom line is that all of this time. I mean, I've been talking to a lot of the guys in transition, and they've laid out. It's like a restaurant where there's a ton of menu items, and they're basically saying to the new administration, the president and his top team now, here are 5 options that you have. But mark my word, day one if you have plans for the afternoon of January 20th, after the president gets sworn in at 12 o'clock, sit down, buckle up, because your head's going to be on a swivel, whether it's immigration, the military, international, tariffs and trade issues, you name it, it's going to be fast and furious. And these guys are going to come in, and I literally think that the comms team is going to have to block out enough time to explain what has just happened. But that first day, that first week are going to be insane with the amount, the gusto that is coming. I don't think people fully appreciate how much work has been done so that these guys hit the ground running. He's not going to waste that day. I would be like, it's interesting. I don't know about this, and so I'm not I wouldn't be surprised how little they celebrate that night. And I say this because I think Trump wants to send a clear message. I know I have 4 years left, and I'm going to use every second of it. I mean, they might, obviously, I think there'll be a ball. I know that there's a few things happening that night, but
not like we've seen in the past. Not like
No, I don't. I think that he gets symbolism and visuals more than anyone else. And I wouldn't be surprised if he says, hey, guys, now the problem is that you have to have some of that. There's just the donors who have funded a lot of things want to go to something and put on their black tie. But I think that Trump's view is, hey, I'm here to work, and maybe we do one of these quick, and I'll go do a twirl on Inauguration Day, but that's it.
Well, after years of being demonized, I think that his supporters would like to have a party, and we've been partying, but you're right, it is important.
By the way, can I just you brought that up, Larry. I wrote this the other day in my column, and it's such an important point. After 2016, when we won, it was such a glorious election night, and yet we were immediately met with the skepticism. Russia did it. You didn't win the popular vote. You're not a legitimate winner.
Yeah.
They demoralized us and delegitimized the win. This time, when I went down to Mar-a-Lago, 10 days ago, it was a complete. It felt different, and nothing will ever take away from how awesome 2016 was. And it's one of the highlights of my political career. But I will tell you the overwhelming victory this time, not just the popular vote, not just the electoral vote number, but the gains that he made with Hispanics and blacks and women and other groups that don't traditionally do as well for Republican candidates, was just so overwhelming that the left has been silenced. And I think that win and the victory, to your point, is just so much greater for the folks down there. And I was so happy to be walking among them, watching just the smiles on their faces and how positive they were.
Obviously I wanted Trump to win for various reasons, for our country, for our military, for our foreign policy, for our economy, for our border security. But one of the overriding emotions I had election day, and just sort of the pins and needles I was on, hoping that the victory would come through, is that I wanted our listeners to be happy. I wanted them to have a good day.
But it's funny.
There's something about the emotion.
And yesterday, this CBS YouGov poll comes out, and it shows that 57% of Americans support the president's immigration stance, right?
Yes.
To deport. And so when you look at it and you say, be happy, I think the idea last time, again, was immediately this pushback on all these policies that Trump had campaigned on. Almost like people didn't really know what they were voting on. There's no question this time.
Yeah.
That they were supporting the president's policies. And so to see this level of support, when you see almost 60% of Americans saying, yeah, we're on board on that, and that's just one of the several policies that they polled, he goes into this with a lot of people saying, I'm excited. I'm ready to go. I want to see this story. And that's I'm excited for that, just knowing that you can be a lot more proud. It's funny in this area, the DMV, that even when we won in 2016, it was sort of like, well, we'll wait you out. We know that it's not real.
Right.
And you would never walk down the street being like, yeah, I work in the Trump administration. Now, everything from K Street to the associations, people are like, well, we need Trump people involved. They've now, there is sort of an acceptance that, yes, you guys were right. And we want to be part of the team. I can't imagine. You know how many people's LinkedIn profiles have changed? And suddenly they're very connected to everyone.
Yeah. Oh, that's some things never change in Washington. All right, so now it's policy time. So was one of those policies that Trump's ready to enact a tariff against Mexico and Canada? He floated that idea yesterday. He sounds serious about it. We'll get into those details and more in a moment. First, though, it's 5:44.
Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
It's 5:49. It's O'Connor and Company with Larry and Sean Spicer. And Sean, I mentioned it, and the president-elect tweeted it out. The president tweeted it out that he's threatening China, Mexico, and Canada with 25% tariff on all goods on day one, and an additional 10% tariff on China until it cracks down on fentanyl smuggling. This has to do with this is unless Mexico and Canada and China do something about the illegal immigration. It's interesting that he threw Canada in there. I'm guessing this is because of the USMCA, that you can't just put a tariff on one country without it affecting the other country in the North American trade agreement. I'm not sure, but
yeah, there's some bilateral agreements that are made, but there's always loopholes for national murder. I mean, for certain extenuating circumstances.
Right.
What I love about this, though, is it's like anything else. I mean, if you have a wrong, somebody wrongs you in some way, and you go, great, I'll go to court. I mean, you have to spend money, you have to take this. So even if Canada's right, what this is really about, and what people have to understand, is that President Trump is saying, you guys know that fentanyl is coming into our country, other drugs, trafficking in the case. I was just down at the border a couple weeks ago in Cochise County, Arizona, and it is unreal to see for yourself. And when you realize what's happening, and the president's saying, okay, fine, I'm going to use every tool at my disposal to make you pay attention and to make you deal with this. So even if they say, great, well, we're going to sue you because it's a violation of the USMCA, it'll take time, it'll take money, and the easier solution is, hey, why don't you do something about the fentanyl coming into our country? And that's what I think is the big thing. And so everyone freaks out when Trump does something. And I think the bottom line is just stop and understand why he's doing it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Remember, what he's doing right now is getting them to come to the table and getting them to address a problem that they should be willing to do with anyway. I remember when the USMCA was being negotiated, and I think it was Trudeau said, well, I'm not renegotiating NAFTA. And Trump said, fine, I'll cut a deal with Mexico.
Right.
And suddenly Trudeau goes, well, on second thought, my friend, bonjour, I'm suddenly available.
Wow, your Quebecois is impeccable. That's impressive.
Well, I got to say,
but
I'm
you're
not
right.
my French.
It's a weapon, though. That's everybody. Immediately the response yesterday. Well, that's going to be a 25% increase on the cost of 40% of our imports. It's like, no. He's threatening them. It's called a threat, and it's a tool, and it's a weapon, and we can use it. But how about instead you see what the other people do to respond to that threat, and then you start working together?
Yeah, but I guarantee you that they come to the table. Yes. They commit new resources to protect the border, their border, the flow of drugs over it. And everyone's going to go afterwards like, oh, yeah, that worked. And
yes.
That's why this gets back to the question you were asking before about Matt Gaetz, he's very predictable. And no one wants to just take it at face value, and he'll do it. He'll go through with it. I mean, if they said, no, we're not going to abide by this, he'll go, great, I'll slap the tariff on you and watch your economy. Because just imagine, this goes back to my point. Imagine for 30 days that those tariffs stay on, 60 days, what that does to Canadian businesses, to Mexican businesses that are trying to get market access to our country. They'll shrivel up, and they'll suddenly be telling the president or the prime minister, you got to go do this. You got to do this. And so that's the beauty of what's happening right now, is he's bringing them to the table to do something that they should be willing to do anyway, but that they're not.
Sean, I've often said that your book, The Briefing, about your time in the Trump presidency, really it's about your life in politics, and it's about American politics. One of the best books, I think, to understand how this town functions and how politics works, but also understanding Trump as well. And to that end, the other book I think that was seminal of that first year of the Trump presidency was Newt Gingrich's book called Understanding Trump. And Newt in that book keeps coming back to the same thing. Read The Art of the Deal. You want to understand Donald Trump, you want to understand why he does the things he does, read Art of the Deal. And it's incredibly revelatory. As soon as you shoot everything that he does through the concept of setting up a negotiation for a deal that's going to best advantage him, or in this case, America, then it all makes sense. And that's how I see this.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. But Larry, the thing that's so fascinating about what you just said is, think about this. If you were to go to a meeting of D.C. White House correspondents and say, how many of you have read The Art of the Deal?
Yeah.
What do you think the number would be?
None.
Right.
Maybe, Matt Boyle. Matt Boyle will raise it.
Okay, but Matt Boyle doesn't hang out in the White House briefing room. I think Matt decamped to Florida, by the way. But the bottom line is, that these guys, it's all there. It's all in front of them. And sometimes it's just so funny. Like there was a story yesterday that I reposted from the New York Times about polling and how they were claiming that Republicans were cherry picking positive polls. And I wrote, this didn't age well. The polling was there. When people say to me, how did we miss this? I reply by saying, we didn't, you did.
That's right.
And the thing is that the evidence was there, the voter data was there. You didn't do this. And in the case of Donald Trump, he's written it all down. He tweets what he thinks. He wrote a book called The Art of the Deal. Read it, and you understand him.
We've got more with Sean Spicer all morning, and KT McFarland on foreign policy at 7:05. 8:05, Julie Kelly on the Jack Smith case disintegrating, and at 8:35, Joe Concha on the media. Keep it here. It's O'Connor and Company, 554.